21 secret surgeries that changed Golden Age stars forever. They dazzled us with perfect smiles, flawless skin, and faces that seemed untouched by time. To the world, Golden Age Hollywood stars looked like living gods, effortlessly beautiful, eternally glamorous. But what if that perfection came with a hidden price? Behind those iconic looks were scalpels, secret procedures, and recovery rooms no one was ever supposed to see. The truth. Many of the era's most beloved stars were carefully, and quietly, reshaped by the Hollywood machine. These weren't just simple touch-ups. Some underwent complete transformations, with studios pulling every string to keep the truth buried. Contracts were rewritten. Medical records disappeared. And publicists spun tales to protect the illusion. Today, we're lifting the velvet curtain on 21 secret surgeries that forever altered the faces of Hollywood royalty. From subtle tweaks that fine-tuned a starlet smile to jaw-dropping reconstructions that changed someone's entire identity, each procedure helped craft the legends we still idolize today. By the time we reach number 1, you'll see the Golden Age in a whole new light. Because Hollywood didn't just create stars, it sculpted them. Literally. So get ready. What you thought was natural beauty may have been the industry's most well-guarded secret. Audrey Hepburn. Audrey Hepburn. We begin our countdown with a woman often hailed as the very definition of natural beauty, or so the world believed. With her delicate features and that famously enchanting smile, Audrey captivated audiences in timeless classics like Roman Holiday and Breakfast at Tiffany's. But behind that seemingly effortless elegance was a small, hidden truth. Her iconic smile wasn't entirely untouched by Hollywood's hand. Before her star-making role, Hepburn underwent subtle dental procedures to correct slight imperfections. Studio dental surgeons carefully reshaped her teeth, barely altering them, yet just enough to craft the flawless smile that would become her signature. The work was done quietly in the early 1950s, soon after Paramount signed her. Studio executives saw her potential immediately and deemed the enhancements a necessary investment in their rising star. At first, Audrey resisted. She feared even the slightest change might alter the natural charm that made her unique. But she was gently persuaded that these tiny refinements would only highlight her innate beauty, not mask it. Unlike many of her peers who went under the knife to chase perfection, Hepburn's enhancements were minimal, almost invisible. What makes her story so captivating is the way it underscores a broader truth. Even the most natural icons were shaped, ever so delicately, by the demands of an industry obsessed with perfection. In Audrey's case, it wasn't transformation. It was quiet polish. A gentle nudge toward what Hollywood thought the world needed to see, when in reality, what the world truly loved was already there. James Dean. James Dean, the smoldering rebel who defined 1950s cool, seemed to embody effortless confidence every time he stepped in front of a camera. But behind that iconic scowl and devil-may-care swagger was a young man haunted by insecurity, especially when it came to something as simple as his smile. Long before Rebel Without a Cause made him a legend, Dean quietly underwent extensive dental work to fix what he saw as a flaw: uneven, slightly discolored teeth that didn't fit Hollywood's leading man mold. Studio dentists gave him veneers, not just to brighten his teeth, but to craft a smile that matched the myth he was becoming. It wasn't merely cosmetic, it shifted the way he carried himself. That confident grin became a crucial part of the James Dean image. Raw, rebellious, unforgettable. Records show the work was done in 1954, just after he signed with Warner Brothers. It took several weeks, and Dean reportedly grew restless, repeatedly asking if the veneers looked too perfect or too Hollywood. He feared losing his masculine edge. The irony. The face of youthful rebellion, that symbol of raw, untamed authenticity, was partly manufactured. James Dean's smile was engineered, just like the legend around him. And in that tension, between the real and the carefully crafted, lies the tragedy and truth of Hollywood's most iconic outsider. Gloria Swanson. Gloria Swanson wasn't just a silent film icon, she was a pioneer in the art of reinvention. Long before plastic surgery became a Hollywood norm, Swanson was quietly rewriting the rules. As the golden age of silent cinema gave way to the era of talkies in the late 1920s, younger faces were quickly taking center stage, and Swanson, determined not to be left behind, took matters into her own hands. In a bold and secretive move, she became one of the first major stars to undergo cosmetic surgery, flying to Paris in 1928 for an experimental facelift performed by a French surgeon who had honed his skills treating disfigured World War I veterans. The procedure was crude by today's standards, painful, imprecise, and risky, but Swanson endured it all in the name of survival. She vanished from the spotlight for nearly 2 months, explaining her absence as a leisurely shopping trip abroad. In truth, she was healing in silence, determined to reclaim her image in an industry that discarded aging women like yesterday's news. Swanson's courage to go under the knife wasn't vanity, it was defiance. In a time when actresses were expected to disappear gracefully into obscurity, she chose instead to fight for relevance. Her story is a powerful reminder of the brutal pressure Hollywood places on its stars, and the extraordinary lengths some will go to stay in the game. Kirk Douglas. Kirk Douglas. The name alone evokes images of rugged charm and old-school Hollywood masculinity. With his chiseled jawline and that unforgettable dimpled chin, he became one of the most recognizable faces of the silver screen. But here's the twist: that signature cleft, the one that helped define his larger-than-life persona in films like Spartacus and Champion, wasn't entirely natural. Behind the scenes, studio executives saw Douglas not just as an actor, but as a product to be perfected. And in the mid-1940s, as he made the leap from theater to film, he reportedly underwent a subtle yet groundbreaking procedure to enhance his already strong chin. A small implant was inserted to deepen the cleft, sculpting what would become one of Hollywood's most iconic profiles. Unlike the dramatic overhaul some stars endured, Douglas's enhancement didn't create something new. It sharpened and exaggerated what was already there. The result? A screen presence that radiated strength, defiance, and intensity. So convincing, in fact, that few ever suspected the truth. Years later, when asked about his famous chin, Douglas simply smirked and said, "I've always had it." A clever reply, technically true, but artfully dodging the quiet secret behind one of Hollywood's most legendary faces. And perhaps most fascinating of all? That enhanced chin didn't just become his trademark. It echoed through generations, shaping the look and legacy of his son, Michael Douglas, as if that sculpted cleft had been passed down through blood, not surgery. Betty Grable. Betty Grable. The woman whose million-dollar legs became the most iconic pin-up symbol of World War II, and whose image graced the lockers and hearts of over 5 million American servicemen. But behind that dazzling smile and flawless silhouette was a hidden truth few fans ever suspected. Grable's famous legs, insured by 20th Century Fox for a staggering $1 million, weren't just naturally perfect. They were meticulously sculpted through painful and cutting-edge procedures for their time. Long before Hollywood openly admitted to body enhancements, Grable endured early versions of liposuction, skin-tightening treatments, and mechanical massages administered by a mysterious European body sculptor. These sessions, sometimes involving injections to reduce fluid retention, were grueling, but deemed necessary by a studio determined to protect its most valuable asset. Her legs weren't just limbs, they were gold-plated marketing machines. Every angle, every curve, had to be photo-ready for those legendary swimsuit shots. While the public marveled at her radiant beauty, the studio quietly invested a small fortune, and Grable paid the price in pain. The truth is, those million-dollar legs weren't just insured, they were engineered. And the cost wasn't just monetary, it was personal. Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando, before he became the brooding, mumbling anti-hero who redefined modern acting, was just another striking young man in a sea of Hollywood hopefuls, his looks almost perfect, but not quite. In the years before A Streetcar Named Desire made him a legend, Brando quietly underwent a subtle rhinoplasty, just enough to narrow the bridge of his nose, to sculpt his rugged features without erasing them. It wasn't about vanity. It was about camera angles and career strategy. The studios didn't want to strip him of his raw magnetism, they wanted to sharpen it. That one minor tweak helped bring his intense eyes and chiseled jawline into focus, creating the magnetic, tortured beauty that would launch him to stardom. The operation, arranged quietly in 1949 through connections at his acting studio, wasn't forced on him. It was Brando's own idea, sparked after watching early screen tests where he felt his nose distracted from the emotion in his performance. The surgeon later recalled how precise Brando was, clear that he didn't want to be prettier, only less self-conscious. He told me, "I don't want my nose to be the first thing people see." What makes this moment so ironic is that Brando would go on to become the very symbol of rebellion against Hollywood's shallow ideals. Yet he, too, once made a quiet compromise with the system. That barely noticeable nose job wasn't about ego. It was about survival in a town where even brilliance needed to be beautifully packaged. Ava Gardner. Ava Gardner. With her smoldering gaze and sultry presence, Ava Gardner became one of Hollywood's most mesmerizing icons. But behind that flawless beauty was a painful secret few fans ever knew. Before she lit up the silver screen as MGM's exotic leading lady, Ava underwent drastic physical alterations to fit the studio's vision of perfection. Her natural hairline, lower and softer than what MGM deemed ideal, was forcibly reshaped through months of electrolysis, the same brutal procedure that Rita Hayworth once endured. The treatments began the moment she signed with the studio in the early 1940s. After viewing her screen tests, MGM boss Louis B. Mayer reportedly declared her almost perfect, then coldly added, "Fix that forehead." And so, week after week for nearly half a year, Ava sat through excruciating sessions where each individual hair follicle was electrically destroyed, all without proper anesthesia. The pain was so severe she occasionally fainted, and a makeup artist later recalled seeing her arrive to set with red, tear-stained eyes. Ava would try to laugh it off, joking that in Hollywood, beauty and torture go hand in hand. But beneath the humor was a quiet anguish. Subtle facial contouring was added to enhance her already striking cheekbones, crafting the signature look that would define her career. Yet the toll it took was more than skin deep. Like so many women of the golden age, Ava learned early that pain was simply part of the price for stardom, and for becoming the image the world expected to see. Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart. That unmistakable voice, cool, clipped, with just a hint of a lisp, became one of Hollywood's most iconic sounds. But few people know it wasn't entirely natural. Before he became the tough-talking hero of Casablanca and the Maltese Falcon, Bogart battled a mild lisp that nearly cost him his shot at stardom. The solution: painful and extensive dental reconstruction that spanned from 1935 to 1937, just as he was breaking out of supporting roles and stepping into the spotlight at Warner Brothers. Rather than erasing his unique way of speaking, the dental work reshaped it, turning a liability into legend. Records later revealed that Bogart was fitted with partial dentures and had several teeth reshaped to subtly alter the way his tongue moved during speech. The goal wasn't just cosmetic, it was career-saving. Jack Warner himself approved the costly procedures, allegedly giving Bogart a chilling ultimatum: fix the teeth, fix the lisp, or find another line of work. In the end, what could have ended his career became a defining trademark. That cool, slightly slurred delivery added layers of grit and charm to every role he played. It's a prime example of how Hollywood didn't just hide imperfections, it sometimes turned them into gold. Sophia Loren. Sophia Loren, the smoldering Italian enchantress whose beauty seemed almost mythic. With her perfect bone structure and magnetic screen presence, Loren appeared to be the epitome of natural elegance. But even this iconic goddess made subtle refinements to elevate what was already breathtaking. Early in her career, long before she became a global sensation, Sophia underwent minor yet strategic procedures in Rome, refinements that emphasized her almond-shaped eyes and sculpted cheekbones without ever betraying the hand of a surgeon. Unlike the drastic transformations that left some stars nearly unrecognizable, Loren's enhancements were masterfully discreet, so subtle they felt like nature's own touch. Small adjustments around her eyes helped accentuate their sultry, exotic curve, while gentle contouring made her cheekbones even more radiant under studio lights. The procedure, a delicate lateral canthopexy, was arranged by Italian producer Carlo Ponti, who would later become her husband, after a cameraman noted that her mesmerizing eyes didn't fully translate on film. The surgeon later described the work as refining the exceptional. And it worked. With the slightest lift of the outer eye, Loren's gaze became cinematic poetry, intense, unforgettable, impossible to look away from. What made her enhancements so remarkable was how invisible they were. They didn't change her, they simply made the world see what was always there. Sophia Loren's story proves that the most effective Hollywood beauty work wasn't about reinvention, it was about amplification. She wasn't pressured into it by studio executives or beauty trends. According to her longtime makeup artist, Loren approached her appearance as a professional tool, an asset worth fine-tuning, not out of vanity, but out of vision. A business decision made with precision, to ensure that the camera captured every ounce of the magic she so effortlessly possessed. Dean Martin. Dean Martin, the epitome of smooth, debonair charm, may have seemed born for the spotlight, but his iconic image was carefully crafted, right down to the shape of his nose. Long before he became the effortlessly cool crooner we know today, Martin, then still Dino Crocetti, the son of Italian immigrants, had a broader, more rugged nose that didn't quite fit the suave persona Hollywood had in mind. In 1948, at the height of his wildly popular partnership with Jerry Lewis, Martin quietly underwent a rhinoplasty that would help transform his career. The procedure, encouraged by Paramount executives, wasn't just cosmetic, it was strategic. Studio heads believed his ethnic features might limit his appeal in romantic leading roles, so they pushed for a sleeker profile that aligned with the era's narrow beauty standards. The surgery was timed perfectly during a break in filming, giving Martin the chance to recover without disrupting his rising momentum. Still, it wasn't an easy decision. According to Lewis, Martin wrestled with the idea, fearing it was an erasure of his roots. "They're trying to make me look less Italian," he reportedly said. "What's next? Changing my name again." But Dean ultimately saw the writing on the wall. The refined nose, the tailored suits, the easy smile, it all became part of the Martin mystique. The surgery was so seamless that most fans never questioned his good looks, accepting him as the gold standard of Hollywood sophistication. And just like that, Dino from Ohio disappeared, and Dean Martin, the martini-sipping icon of cool, was born. Greta Garbo. Greta Garbo. The name alone evokes mystery, elegance, and an otherworldly beauty that seemed almost untouchable. But behind the haunting gaze and chiseled features that defined her screen presence was a transformation far more calculated than most fans ever knew. Long before the age of modern cosmetic surgery, Garbo underwent a series of subtle yet significant procedures that reshaped her from a soft-faced newcomer into the sculpted icon we remember today. When she first arrived in Hollywood, studio executives were captivated by her soulful eyes but felt her round face lacked the dramatic angles needed for the silver screen. Determined to mold her into a bankable star, MGM launched a quiet but aggressive makeover. In 1925, under the direction of studio chief Louis B. Mayer, Garbo's transformation began. Early facial contouring, through a mix of surgical techniques and mechanical manipulation, refined her jawline and elevated her cheekbones, crafting the elegant, angular face that became her trademark. But perhaps the most controversial aspect of her metamorphosis was an early form of bariatric intervention. Though primitive by today's standards, it effectively reduced her stomach capacity, enforcing the extreme slenderness that became central to her screen persona. Combined with studio-enforced dieting and dental work to perfect her smile, Garbo's transformation was complete, not just physically, but mythically. Her beauty was no accident. It was manufactured with precision, vision, and a ruthless dedication to image. Garbo's evolution wasn't merely an enhancement, it was a reinvention. A reminder that in Golden Age Hollywood, stars weren't discovered. They were sculpted. Cary Grant. Cary Grant. As we break into the top 10 of our countdown, we meet a man who defined timeless sophistication, Hollywood's eternal gentleman. For decades, Cary Grant dazzled audiences with his effortless charm and ageless good looks. But behind that perfectly polished exterior was a carefully guarded secret. As the years crept in, so did the fear of fading, and Grant quietly turned to plastic surgery to preserve the illusion of eternal youth. In the early 1950s, just shy of his 50th birthday, Grant underwent a discreet facelift, a bold move in an era when cosmetic procedures for men were nearly taboo. The work was subtle yet striking, focusing mainly on his jawline and neck, areas where time had begun to whisper its presence. Unlike the heavy-handed surgeries we often see today, this one was a masterclass in restraint. It didn't sculpt a new face, it simply froze time on the one the world adored. What's even more fascinating is how carefully the procedure was concealed. Rather than risk the scrutiny of studio whispers or public speculation, Grant checked into a private Swiss clinic under the name Alexander Archibald, a clever nod to his birth name, Archibald Leach. He vanished from Hollywood for 3 weeks, his absence explained away as a European holiday. While actresses were often pressured, and even praised, for going under the knife, male stars like Grant were trapped in a different kind of illusion. They had to age without ever seeming to. Grant's case reveals the quiet burden of fame, the need to maintain an image so perfect, it couldn't even be honestly preserved. His face may have aged gracefully, but the truth behind it was anything but effortless. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford. A name that still echoes through Hollywood's golden halls. Known for her unforgettable presence and strikingly sculpted face, few realize that Crawford's iconic look wasn't just a product of makeup, it was built through excruciating sacrifice. Early in her career, as she fought to be taken seriously as an actress rather than just a dancer or flapper, Crawford underwent a series of brutal dental procedures that would forever redefine her face and her fate. The most extreme of these involved the removal of her back molars, a move that hollowed out her cheeks and made her already sharp cheekbones even more pronounced. The result? That unforgettable, almost haunting beauty that became her signature. Beginning around 1928, MGM orchestrated the transformation with chilling precision. Over the span of 2 years, healthy teeth were extracted, one by one, not for health, but for aesthetics. And all without the benefit of modern anesthesia. Her longtime makeup artist would later recall how stoic she was through it all. Crawford never flinched. She believed pain was a price worth paying for greatness, he said. And in the ruthless studio system where actresses could be replaced overnight, Crawford's resolve set her apart. Her face, photogenic, unforgettable, almost sculptural, wasn't just born, it was forged. Forged in pain. And behind that dazzling smile was a woman who endured agony to ensure the world would never forget her face. Clark Gable. Clark Gable, Hollywood's ultimate leading man, carried a secret that could have shattered his carefully crafted image of rugged masculinity. By the time he reached his mid-30s, years of poor dental hygiene, heavy smoking, and advanced periodontal disease had taken a devastating toll, leaving him with severe tooth decay and loss. The solution? A full set of dentures, painstakingly constructed to deliver the dazzling, confident smile we remember from films like Gone with the Wind. When Gable signed with MGM, the studio immediately launched a quiet but urgent transformation. Behind closed doors, dental surgeons extracted his rotting teeth and began fitting him with temporary dentures to maintain his on-screen appearance during filming. It was a grueling, months-long process, painful, physically taxing, and tightly guarded from the public and press. Studio records from 1932, just after his breakthrough in Red Dust, reveal the extent of the damage. Rather than attempt to save his remaining teeth, doctors opted for complete removal, a drastic but visually effective fix. His final set of dentures, crafted by MGM's top prosthodontist, was slightly oversized to give him a bolder, more commanding smile. That unforgettable grin wasn't natural. It was manufactured to radiate confidence and screen presence. Off-screen, the dentures caused Gable significant discomfort and subtly impacted his speech. But revealing the truth would have risked destroying the romantic illusion that had made him Hollywood's most bankable male star. His case is a striking example of how studios of the Golden Age didn't just shape careers. They rebuilt bodies, reshaped faces, and rewrote reality itself to sell the fantasy of perfection. Judy Garland. Judy Garland. The cherished star of The Wizard of Oz may have dazzled audiences on screen, but behind the scenes, she was subjected to some of Hollywood's harshest and most invasive beauty standards, beginning when she was just a child. At the heart of MGM's obsession with controlling Garland's image were painful dental procedures inflicted on her as a teenager, all in the name of crafting a camera-perfect smile. Studio dentists fitted her with uncomfortable removable caps that distorted her natural teeth, causing significant pain and discomfort. She was forced to wear them during filming, even as she struggled under the weight of the studio's relentless criticism of her appearance. These brutal modifications began when Garland was only 14, part of MGM's disturbing effort to micromanage every inch of her growing body. Internal studio dental records from 1936 describe her teeth as having irregularities that needed correcting. But modern dental experts reviewing her photos have suggested that her smile was merely slightly uneven, certainly nothing warranting such extreme intervention. Instead of recommending orthodontic care suitable for a young girl, MGM pushed for immediate cosmetic fixes. Artificial caps that covered her real teeth with pristine facades, at the cost of her comfort and even her ability to sing or speak with ease. What makes Judy Garland's story especially chilling is that these procedures were performed on a minor, without genuine consent and with no regard for her pain. Her smile became yet another battlefield in a war for control that included forced starvation diets, amphetamines to boost energy, and constant surveillance over her weight and looks. It's no wonder that these early traumas left scars that haunted Garland for the rest of her life. Her radiant smile may have enchanted the world, but behind it was a young girl hurting, silently, deeply, and under the thumb of a studio system that prized perfection over humanity. Burt Lancaster. Burt Lancaster, the ruggedly handsome athlete with that unforgettable megawatt smile, didn't always have the perfect grin that lit up the silver screen. Early in his career, Lancaster's teeth were badly damaged and uneven, a stark contrast to his striking physique and chiseled good looks. But in classic Hollywood fashion, the studios stepped in to fix that. In 1946, just before his breakout role in The Killers, Lancaster underwent a dramatic dental transformation. Studio dentists worked meticulously to rebuild his smile using a combination of bridges, partial dentures, and pioneering veneer techniques. The results were nothing short of cinematic alchemy. Those gleaming, perfectly aligned teeth didn't just enhance his looks, they redefined his presence. In pre-fame screen tests, Lancaster appears more reserved, his expression guarded. But after the dental work, a star was born. His new smile gave him a bold confidence, a magnetic charm that became central to his on-screen persona in classics like From Here to Eternity. The difference wasn't just physical, it was psychological. He smiled more, moved differently, owned the camera in a way he hadn't before. Lancaster's story is a striking example of how the old studio system didn't just discover stars, they built them, sometimes literally from the teeth up. And in his case, a dazzling smile became one of his greatest weapons on the road to Hollywood legend. Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor. As we enter the top 5 of our countdown, we arrive at a woman whose beauty has become the stuff of legend, Elizabeth Taylor, the violet-eyed goddess of the silver screen. Much has been said about her otherworldly eyes and the rare double row of lashes that framed them like jewels. But what most people don't realize is that one of her most iconic features, her flawless, radiant smile, wasn't entirely a gift of nature. Long before she became a Hollywood icon, a young Taylor underwent a quiet transformation behind the scenes. At just 12 years old, while under contract with MGM in 1944, studio dentists began carefully reshaping her slightly uneven teeth, not with harsh metal braces or painful appliances like those inflicted on Judy Garland, but with cutting-edge orthodontic techniques and subtle cosmetic bonding. The process was gradual, almost invisible, unfolding over several years so that her smile evolved as naturally as her rise from child star to Hollywood royalty. By the time she emerged as a leading lady, her dazzling smile matched the rest of her breathtaking features, refined, elegant, yet unmistakably her own. What makes Taylor's transformation so remarkable is its restraint. The studio didn't try to erase her uniqueness or mold her into a different person. Instead, they enhanced what was already extraordinary, refining her natural beauty just enough to meet Hollywood's impossible standards, without compromising the magic that made her unforgettable. John Wayne. John Wayne, the towering emblem of American grit and rugged masculinity, harbored a secret that quietly contradicted his tough guy persona. Behind that weathered cowboy face was a man fighting a different kind of battle, the war against time. In the 1950s and 60s, as age began to leave its marks, Wayne underwent a series of discreet cosmetic surgeries, facelifts and eyelid procedures, designed to preserve the rugged strength that defined his on-screen legend. These weren't casual touch-ups. They were tightly guarded operations, masked as fishing trips and hunting retreats, orchestrated with military precision to protect the illusion Hollywood had sold to millions. His first known facelift came in 1953, as he neared his 50s, a critical crossroads for any leading man built on physical dominance. Surgeons focused on restoring his jawline and neck, subtly firming the features that had come to symbolize American heroism. The results? Virtually undetectable to the public eye. In the early 60s, he underwent blepharoplasty to lift his sagging eyelids, again, not to look young, but to avoid looking tired. Every procedure was strategically timed during filming breaks, allowing him to return to set as the same indomitable force fans had always known. But what truly makes Wayne's story fascinating is the intense secrecy surrounding it. In an industry where actresses were practically expected to go under the knife, Wayne's procedures had to remain invisible. A man of his image couldn't be seen as vain or vulnerable, not in a world that worshipped his unbreakable cowboy myth. His carefully concealed transformations expose a deeper truth, the double standard of Hollywood's beauty machine. While women were judged for aging, men were supposed to transcend it altogether. For John Wayne, staying real required just as much artifice as any leading lady's glamour, and perhaps even more silence. Gary Cooper. Gary Cooper, the tall, stoic icon of classic Hollywood with that unforgettable chiseled profile, harbored a secret few fans ever knew. Early in his career, long before he became a silver screen legend, Cooper underwent a quiet but telling transformation, ear-pinning surgery. His slightly protruding ears, though hardly remarkable to the average viewer, were seen by Paramount studio executives as a liability, a subtle imperfection that could distract from his otherwise dashing features in unforgiving close-up shots. The procedure, performed around 1928 as Cooper was being groomed for leading man status, was simple but impactful. By pinning his ears closer to his head, surgeons helped craft the clean, sculpted look that would later become iconic in films like High Noon. Ironically, the hands behind his transformation belonged to a doctor who had honed his skills treating war veterans with facial injuries. Reconstructive expertise now repurposed for Hollywood's obsessive pursuit of perfection. Cooper's swift recovery meant he was back on set within weeks, with camera angles carefully chosen to mask any signs of healing. But the real story lies in what this cosmetic adjustment says about the era. In the ruthless beauty standards of the studio system, even a future Oscar winner wasn't immune to surgical refinement. In an industry that demanded flawlessness, no detail was too minor, no profile too sacred to escape scrutiny. Even for a man like Gary Cooper, extraordinary good looks and talent weren't quite enough, unless every angle was, quite literally, picture-perfect. Rita Hayworth. Rita Hayworth. Born Margarita Carmen Cancino, she underwent one of the most brutal and heartbreaking transformations in Hollywood history to become the red-haired screen goddess we remember today. But behind the glamour was pain. Deep, searing pain. The most extreme change. A series of electrolysis treatments that literally burned away her natural hairline. Inch by inch, week after week, her forehead was reshaped using electric currents to kill hair follicles, without proper anesthesia. The goal was as cruel as it was clear: to erase any trace of her Hispanic identity and remake her into a non-ethnic beauty fit for the silver screen. The transformation began in 1935 when Columbia Pictures head Harry Cohn saw potential in the struggling dancer, but only if she could be molded into Hollywood's idea of a leading lady. Her dark hair, olive skin, and low hairline were deemed too ethnic for stardom. So, the reinvention began. For nearly 18 agonizing months, Rita submitted to weekly electrolysis sessions, each one a fresh kind of torture. She later described the pain as feeling like her skin was being scorched off, little by little. But the agony didn't stop there. Her hair was bleached from deep black to a glowing auburn, and her name was anglicized from Margarita Cancino to the now iconic Rita Hayworth. Piece by piece, her heritage was stripped away to fit a fantasy that Hollywood demanded. The suffering she endured wasn't just physical, it was personal, a forced rejection of her own identity. And yet, in an industry built on illusion and exclusion, she paid the price, because for women like Rita, that was the cost of being seen. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe. We finally arrived at number 1, the most dramatic and culture-shifting secret surgery of Hollywood's golden age. Before the world knew her as the ultimate blonde bombshell, Marilyn was Norma Jean Baker, a sweet-faced but ordinary girl with no sign of the mythic beauty she would one day become. Her transformation wasn't just about fame, it was a full reinvention. Subtle yet strategic surgeries completely reshaped her look. A delicate chin implant gave her that iconic heart-shaped face, and a refined nose tipped through rhinoplasty created the flawless profile the world would come to worship. It all began in 1950, just as she was transitioning from pin-up modeling to serious acting. Johnny Hyde, a powerful talent agent who believed fiercely in her potential, personally paid for the procedures. He didn't just see a young woman, he saw a star in the making, and her face was the canvas. A discreet Hollywood surgeon, known for perfecting actresses without leaving a trace, performed the work in utmost secrecy. Of all the changes, the chin implant was the most defining, softening her naturally square jawline into something delicate, dreamy, and distinctly Marilyn. It framed her smile, her gaze, and ultimately, her legend. Paired with platinum blonde hair, bold red lips, and that signature beauty mark, Norma Jean disappeared, replaced by Marilyn Monroe, a fantasy figure born not of nature, but of design. She wasn't just beautified, she was sculpted into the ideal, an image so powerful it still defines American beauty decades after her death. What makes Marilyn's transformation so profound isn't just what she became, it's what she symbolized. Her surgically enhanced features didn't just turn heads, they set the standard. Generations of women, famous and not, have tried to recreate the face that wasn't entirely hers to begin with. Monroe's story is the ultimate example of Hollywood's ability not just to shape stars, but to dictate what beauty means. But behind the glamour was something much darker. The physical pain was temporary, but the psychological toll lasted a lifetime. These women were asked to erase themselves, to become someone else, molded by studios, sculpted for screens. Imagine looking in the mirror and seeing not your reflection, but a role, a marketing strategy, a fantasy. Marilyn once said, "I'm trying to find myself." Sometimes that's not easy. And when you understand how literally she had been transformed by others, those words cut deeper. The stars we've explored today weren't just acting in movies, they were living as characters, off-screen and on. Their bodies, their faces, their identities, sacrificed for a dream that was never fully their own. Imagine the psychological weight they carried. Judy Garland, just a child, forced to wear painful dental contraptions that left scars deeper than the ones on her gums, scars of lifelong insecurity. Rita Hayworth, born Margarita Cancino, endured electrolysis that literally burned away her natural hairline, along with her ethnic identity. Clark Gable, Hollywood's leading man, so ashamed of his dentures that he hid them even from his closest friends to preserve his rugged image. The chiseled chin of Marilyn Monroe. The surgically lifted face of Rita Hayworth. The perfect teeth of Clark Gable. These weren't just cosmetic tweaks, they became the unattainable ideals by which future stars would be judged. But maybe, just maybe, these extreme transformations weren't only about exploitation. Perhaps they were the beginning of a complex, ongoing conversation about beauty, identity, and the right to choose how we present ourselves to the world. These golden age icons, through whispered surgeries and studio-mandated makeovers, laid the foundation for the way we think about beauty today, not as fate, but as something that can be shaped, crafted, and claimed. And that brings us to the end of our journey through Hollywood's most tightly guarded surgical secrets. From Audrey Hepburn's discreet dental corrections to Marilyn Monroe's complete facial reconstruction, we've uncovered just how far the studios were willing to go to manufacture perfection, and how those choices still echo in today's beauty standards. If this peek behind the curtain fascinated you, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe. We drop new stories from classic Hollywood every single week. Now we want to hear from you. Which transformation shocked you the most? Did these revelations change the way you see your favorite golden age stars? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. And we'll see you in the next video, where the secrets of Hollywood's golden era continue to come to light.